Hello. Hello and welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John. Preposterous rhyme. You're very welcome. It's April the 27th, Thursday, going into April the 28th. A lot to talk about. I'd just like to introduce the panel very briefly. Olga Cronin from Dublin. Neil Curran, who's back from Phoenix, Arizona, and back in Dublin. Johnny Keenan from Kilkenny. Gavin Hennessy, who looks after the audio and sound. He's in Leitrim. Caroline, whom is a little blue tonight, owing to the fact that her web camera is gone, but she's there. She's very much there. Caroline.
Hello. Hey.
Caroline McAvoy, who's a EU boffin, so we'll be talking about the United Ireland, whatever vote, EU possible vote, and Mike McGrath Brian, who's going to go through the tomorrow's papers.
Hello, everybody. Indeed, the Irish Examiner is leading off with the calls for accountability in the Grace case, in which Minister for Finance Michael Noonan is embroiled regarding allegations of misconduct of a foster child subjected to sexual abuse. Francis Fitzgerald is talking about a high security unit for jailed gang bosses in order to stem the flow of communication to people on the ground. A teen soccer player that was unsuccessful in his attempt to sue his former soccer club for PTSD speaks up on his parents and defends them for going through with the lawsuit. Legal action has derailed a €1 billion children's hospital as the continued controversy regards Irish hospitals wears on regardless. Peter Boylan, of course, today resigning as a board member of the National Maternity Hospital. The legal structure, of course, has been under massive criticism in recent days, which we will continue to discuss as the show wears on. Taoiseach getting behind calls to give the people necessary, or the people behind these crises, some slack, because of course he's going to reward incompetence. That's what this country does. Yeah, hello, scrolling down there now to the Sun. The most important news, €5 bet with Ladbrokes. But yes, more news on the Islamic State. But yeah, just very interesting there today that Joan Burton is discussing the supposed supposed issues.
Yeah. We just because the case is current and we don't want to go there. If we don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No hassle. The Guardian sweeping on a supposed or a suspected terrorist near Westminster, and you were drawing attention to a story at the front of the Financial Times, no less, John.
Yeah, it's a sort of a kind of green-looking Financial Times that came in. If you just go down, Mike.
I'm trying. It's loading full-scale JPEG newspapers. So yes, and also somebody has seen fit to embed the Daily Express. Why would you do that? Yes, the Financial Times.
Yeah, well, I think that this is a Stephen Collins story, an Irish Times story from today, that he regarded. He described as a stunning coup. For Enda Kenny, and it looks sort of, well, it certainly made the front page of the Financial Times anyway. This is the headline: EU signal over United Ireland stokes fears post-Brexit UK. It's a very sort of dramatic headline for kind of an interesting diplomatic proposal that there should be an EU vote on a United Ireland. I think if you sort of drill deep into the story, I haven't really sort of got my full head around it, but it seems to be genuine kind of saber rattling on behalf of Germany, and a kind of it's a red rag to bull, or a negotiating tool, or and a bit of publicity for Enda. I'm not too sure. But perhaps Neil or Johnny could help us out there.
Yeah, I think I agree, John. This seems like a bit of propaganda from the EU. I mean, it's nothing more than the back of the envelope type of headline. You know, to be so open like that is nothing more but to send shivers up Theresa May's back. I think we have a long way to go before we're anywhere near that point. And I wonder about other implications that kind of talk like this might have. You know, recognizing a united Ireland, and then you have, you know, the challenges that they have in Spain over the Catalonia region, and every time anything happens in Europe, when it comes to unification or recognition of anyone beyond the sovereign states, you know, the Spanish issue comes up as well, and I guess you got Gibraltar as well. Yeah, this just seems like a bit of propaganda on behalf of the EU. Now, I know, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Caroline, correct me if I'm wrong. But I understand it's in the Brexit. It will be in the Brexit agreement that, you know, it will be there that United Ireland can form part of the terms of Brexit should Northern Ireland wish to be a united Ireland. But like I say, we're a long way away from that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually meant to go to Caroline first, but I saw you were blue, and then I realised maybe not online, and then I remembered you were blue because Caroline.
I'm still here, it seems.
Being an EU egghead, what are your thoughts initially?
Yeah, so like it's an interesting day in the sense that, you know, in a lot of senses our concerns, I guess, have been heard, sort of in front and center. But yeah, I think I agree that it's like it's a very dramatic headline. And you know, Neil, you're correct. Like it has been put forward, at least by what MD Kenny wants, that 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 Northern Ireland will have the opportunity to rejoin, that it wouldn't be excluded should a united Ireland be, you know.
Here.
Oh, hello.
So I don't know if you can hear me.
Johnny's in slow-mo there, so he is.
Oh. Am I still being heard?
That was an incredible split last week.
Yeah.
Caroline?
Sure. Yeah. So as I was saying, like, yeah, it is sort of, I mean, it's good for us in a lot of ways that the main concerns are being heard, and particularly there's a commitment, or there seems to be a commitment to maintaining the bilateral agreement that we have, right, the common travel area. And so that's kind of a good thing. In terms of whether or not it stokes fears of a united Ireland, it's very premature, you know, like that is a, you know, to even, I mean, if it wasn't resolved in as many years, you know, it's certainly not going to be resolved over Brexit. You know, so it's more a dramatic headline, I think, to grab attention. And yeah, kind of saber rattling rather than any concrete sense of, well, let's just have a united Ireland, I think. Would be my opinion.
They're using us as a bargaining chip, or at least our unity, or our desire, our dreams of unity as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
Sort of geopolitical effort to get the Brexit cancelled.
Yeah, well, I think there's some recognition that it's very much a key issue. You know, that it's very much a key issue, not just for Britain but for Europe as a whole as well. And I think from that point of view, it could be used as, you know, even raising it as a possibility or an issue is probably going to be used kind of down the line for the harder points. But in all honesty, though, I mean, it's such early days. We haven't really seen the sort of the nitty gritty and how it'll actually sort of play out, and what will be the key sort of sore points between the EU and the UK. But you know, it could be like, not to use kind of like a chess analogy, but it could be just sort of like putting kind of the pawns in place, you know, before sort of the more difficult part of the game kind of comes to pass. Yeah.
I'm
is it
more of a
something?
draftsman. Sorry, Ollie.
Sorry, I was just going to say, is it something that was in the Good Friday Agreement? Is it something that they're just kind of reflecting from that? I was just trying to look at the article there.
Yes.
And there's mention of that, but I don't know.
Sorry.
Might be worth mentioning. Yeah.
don't want to interrupt. Are you?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like.
Were you mid-sentence there?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're sort of slightly blinded by the story. I mean, obviously, we certainly on the site the last 2 days, it's been National Maternity Hospital and all that entails, and then this story sort of picked up. I just don't. I think people kind of missed it during the day or something. Or
it was on the Financial Times, John.
I beg your pardon?
It was on the Financial Times. Is it still talking about the United Ireland story?
Yeah, no, it's on the. So tomorrow's Financial Times. It's on the cover, but today it was fairly muted coverage.
Yeah, but if it's on the Financial Times, you know it's serious.
Yeah,
it's all about the money again. I have to disagree with Neil and Caroline on this one. I think United Ireland. Why wouldn't it happen? Like, we're talking about a revolution, and this is exactly how you get it. United Ireland, we're whatever way EU wants to run it. EU mightn't exist in 6 months' time, but then we'll be United Ireland, so we can go back to where we started.
Right.
What a beautiful notion, huh?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, if you don't want that, if you feel that there's two different countries, if you feel that you're part of a different country, and that,
put it down to the people and make sure that young people have the vote from 16, and then I guarantee you'll see a landslide for United Ireland, because no one's hung up with the whole Presbyterian and Catholic thing and Unionist and Loyalist, Nationalist anymore. That's all rhetoric. It really is. It's in pockets.
I don't doubt that for a second.
It's all about the money, John. Where you have a common interest in the money, and that's what brought the Peace Accord in '98. Investment. That investment has dried up, so that there's tension going on. They wrote a song for United Ireland last year, actually.
Which?
We wrote a song for United Ireland last year.
Okay.
Through the power of football and music, the two cornerstones of civilization, as myself and Lucky agreed on there recently.
Yeah, I agree with one of those, but go on.
But the way it was the Euros last year.
Yeah, of course.
The irony, and actually the guys voted for a Brexit or to stay in Northern Ireland, so did Scotland. So they've already decided that they prefer to be part of the EU, hence United Ireland, and then that eliminates the whole border thing. It really is a very logical conclusion if people just kind of followed the logic of it. That there's more people in Northern Ireland who want to be part of Europe than there isn't. But going back to the Euros last year, what's the one thing that connects the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland? So football.
And rugby, I guess.
No, just football. But for this particular song to work.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I still can't believe how it was the number one. Martin O'Neill is manager of the Republic of Ireland football team.
Johnny, we can't see you. You know that.
Oh really? Well, you're blessed.
No.
I'm coming in on radio.
Johnny,
this is Radio Gaga, John.
This is it defeats the whole purpose of Broadsheet on the telly.
Okay, yeah. Can you see me now?
Johnny's gone rogue.
Johnny, if you don't mind logging in and logging back out again, we probably will stand a better chance of seeing you, because we lost picture a while back.
No worries.
Okay. Sorry, we'll chat in a second.
Grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's sort of a strange evening, isn't it? I mean, it's been a strange week on the site. Very tempestuous, and it's very difficult to have a cool head, as Simon Harris would suggest, around this. I was only thinking tonight that I'm related to a nun, and I was thinking, amazing that it turns out she's the black sheep of the family. After all these years, it turns out. So anyway, not to talk about the Catholicism of it, or the church aspect of it. Just imagine. Okay, it's an owner we don't want to have. It's like Robert Maxwell or something wants to take over. So imagine it's not the nuns. Mm-hmm. Actually, let's go back. I mean, today's live line was just incredible.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, and it was the commenter Sheikh Yaboudi, Sheikh You beauty.
Our broadsheet, yeah, go on.
Yeah, and basically, so on Liveline, so sorry, there was the Controller and Auditor General between 64 and 73, or 63 and 74, was a guy called Eugene, sorry, I'm going to have to look this up, Eugene, what's his name? Sorry, Eugene Francis Suttle, and basically he was on Liveline, and his son's name is John, and John was on, and he basically said that, so back in the 70s, the Sisters of Charity, the St. Vincent's Hospital was in Stephen's Green, and it was moving hospital. It wanted to move out to Ellen Park, and it owned the site out in Ellen Park. So basically, John said that, so like I said, his father was the Controller and Auditor General, and John said that when Ellen Park was opening, either the Secretary General or the Assistant Secretary General of the Department of Health came to him and was very upset. And this official from the Department of Health had negotiated a deal with the nuns in the mid-60s. And the deal was that when they moved to Ellen Park, that the nuns would give St. Stephen's Green building to the state in recognition of the massive investment by the Sweepstake Trust and the state. That's what John said. If you remember, the sweepstakes was like this kind of a lottery system set up to kind of build hospitals, but I don't think they actually got most of the money in the end. But that's for another day. But and I think they actually used some of that money to build mother and baby homes, as an aside. But anyway, this official was very, very upset because he basically said that the nuns came back and said there was never any such deal, and apparently Eugene, this Controller and Auditor General, apparently told this official, well, look, it's a Catholic religious institution, nothing could probably be done about it. So, but it was an amazing piece of radio. It was just quite a,
Where on Stephen's Green?
I think it was off by the Leeson Street side, maybe.
Someone might give an enormous yawn.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm liaising here with Gavin, whose internet has let him down, so I'm getting ready to screen share the various content that we'll be talking about throughout the course of the show.
Johnny, you're back, and you're going to sing in a bit. Okay, we're going to get that song in a bit. We're just going to go through the.
Yes.
On Jake's to be duetting.
Sorry, so they were going to swap the Stephen's Green site for the Ellen Park site, which was going to.
They were moving to Ellen Park. They owned it. They owned it. The state was going to build it and pay for the hospital.
Yes.
But in return, St. Vincent's was supposed to give the Stephen's Green building to the state.
Right.
As a kind of thank you for the sweepstake and the cash and the support that they would have gotten over the years. But it turned out, according to this man, that the state never got that building, but apparently the nuns claimed this deal had never been made. But it was just a really, really fascinating kind of first-hand, through another person's account of something, Yeah. But it's probably something that people will go through over the next, maybe you will read about it in the Sunday papers, because it's quite symmetrical with what's happening.
Yes, yeah. There's a very unpleasant symmetry, and my God, they kind of hand it to them. They're really shrewd operators, And
well, I don't know about you guys, but this story. Okay, so Patsy McGarry wrote about it in the Irish Times over a week ago, and. My first thought was why hasn't this been published? As in, where's the agreement? We have one person saying, we Rona Mahoney saying, no, this is copper fastened. We'll be, we've got complete autonomy. And then you've got Peter Boylan saying, no, it's not copper fastened. So your immediate reaction is, well, where's the document? Where's the legal memorandum of understanding or articles of association?
Yeah.
But none was forthcoming, and it was this constant, everyday radio, in fairness, I thought RTE did a really good job, and in that sense, it was, the interviews and but it was constant back and forth. It was kind of just going around in circles, and then they did release a document, but it just turned out to be a report that was written by the mediator, so it still wasn't a legal document. And now it turns out that there is no legal document. So, you just have to kind of go.
Sure, imagine.
Just really, really badly handled. And also to kind of not expect
Okay.
the response that.
She was not going to lie. The nuns again.
Johnny is back in time.
You're becoming like that guy, you know.
Yeah, is that the freezing up? Johnny, can you hear me?
Neil,
I'm here.
sorry.
Yeah.
Neil, have you been following the story?
Yeah, I have. I mean, this is quite bizarre actually, because I would have had a lot of respect on both sides of the camp here. Well, sorry, when I say that, between Dr. O'Mahony and Dr. Boylan, I would have respect both sides. So I'm kind of scratching my head at this one. Now, coincidentally, I was speaking to a doctor from Holles Street in the last couple of days, and I asked, their opinion, and interestingly enough, the same words were used that we're seeing from Dr. O'Mahony in the papers, which is storm in a teacup. But it's that it just, the whole thing just seems quite bizarre. Like there's something else going on here that we're not hearing about almost. On one hand, you find it hard to believe that when, if we go ahead with, we are going ahead with it, that, this premises will perform abortions and so on and so forth, and that will be okay. I find that hard to believe, regardless of what's in what's being said or what's even been signed. It just doesn't make any sense why the church would agree to that.
Could you speculate? I mean, what's your feeling on this? What do you think is the force behind this? What do you think is driving this?
I really don't know. Like, I mean, Dr. Boylan is such a respected professional in Ireland. He's, for him to feel so strongly about this, we're not talking about a loony in the background who, screaming from the rafters. He obviously feels so strong about this that he's broken rank after he lost the majority vote. But it's just so hard to say. Speculation is mere. If I was to speculate, I'm only going to go down the dirty road of somebody's gaining here and somebody's losing, and we won't find out for another 40 years. But it just, something stinks about the whole thing. There's just or maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's all genuine and sincere, and it's the easiest approach. But I find that hard to believe.
It's funny though, because in I think it was 2008, I was looking back, and Dr. Boylan, in a couple of articles, going back like over 10 years, was kind of, but he wasn't the only one. Everyone was pushing for a new hospital, and they were very happy to go to Vincent's. This has been going on like for ages, but he was like giving out about the ministers for health. So Brian Cowan, he said, was useless. He called Micheál Martin the minister for reports. He was quite vociferous about the lack of any kind of movement on the department, on the part of the government. But I think this is when, I'm guessing this is when they didn't think that there would be, although I still don't understand how they wouldn't have expected some sort of power play or something by the Sisters of Charity if it was going to be on their land. Or perhaps at that stage he still thought perhaps it could have gone on the periphery and do the CPO, what he was saying about the golf course next to it. But
yeah, I mean, we're assuming that people watching sort of understand it are sort of a lot of the story. I mean, it just, in a sense, there's the kind of soap opera element of it. Boylan is related, which is not. It shouldn't be. She shouldn't be on the board anyway. Frankly, that's. I would. I mean, there's a few things that I would say about Dr. Boylan, and I think what he did was very, very brave. I imagine in his world, it's brave. When I mix in his world, you don't do the things that he's just done.
It's career suicide.
He's retired, so that's I don't know.
But he did say that he did it so that he could speak freely.
Yeah. I would say something. I mean, a couple of things actually. I would say that the vote that he abstained from seemed to be based around his feelings, not for Manona Heron or Manona Mahoney. The fact that her sensibilities, presumably his wife's sensibilities, keeping the family harmony. He indicated that himself.
He did. He said that out of respect for the master, didn't he? That was the quote.
Yeah, that's. Hang on. Oh. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess they are women, but it's very sort of exclusive, branch of womanhood. And I was very disappointed. I was very, very disappointed that he resigned today. Why? What's the point? So he can speak freely. I mean, they are actually. Did the board tell him not to speak freely? 2 members of the board said, told him to quit, and he managed to pull that around within the day. So there's no real reason to resign. I don't know why. Why?
It's the Catholic Church, John. You're going up against the Catholic Church, the biggest organization in the world.
I don't know, John. I'd say maybe give him some time to see what more he has to say.
He's very articulate, and he's given a lot of interviews. You know, perhaps there is something else. You know, I mean, what forced his hand? You know, he blinked. And in my view, I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, and I don't want to be in his shoes, and I'd say it's uncomfortable, kind of, you know, nights out and whatever. But I feel that you know, if you want to gnaw a hair in it, you know, you gotta be a bit more kind of transparent on that. That's my own view. Sorry, Caroline, I keep on thinking you're offline, but you're there. Would you like to?
I think I'm still here. If you can hear me.
Is this a story you've been following?
Yeah, I have been following it kind of more in passing than anything else, and I think you're right. For me, what I find interesting is that, you know, he refuses to resign after pressure's been put on him to do so, and is very open about the pressure that was put on him to do so, and then like, you know, within a day or two, you know, is resigning then, you know. And I think it is kind of surprising, because it's almost like the hard part is over, you know. It's like, maybe not, but like with the hard part of actually kind of taking that stand, like he's already taken the stand, and then he resigns quite quickly afterwards. So it is kind of interesting from that point of view.
Yeah, I have to say that the Lord Mayor said he felt intimidated. He's a board member, but doesn't regularly sit because he's the Lord Mayor. I think it's an occasional thing. But he went last night. He felt intimidated.
Yeah.
Kate,
I was also interested in what Olga was saying about his outspokenness, like, say 10 years ago, you know. And again, this is kind of speculation, but I'm just wondering, like, is it, you know, was he outspoken in terms of sort of who would pay or who would run the hospital once it was opened, or was it more about politicians kind of not getting the finger out and actually doing the work?
Years ago, that would have been, well, he was definitely speaking about the government, the Department of Health at that point. Yeah, there wasn't any discussion.
No, because it's just, I find it interesting because, you know, we find ourselves today probably in a different climate, you know, in the sense that, you know, we have the Citizens Assembly talking about repeal the 8th. We have a lot of pressure in that sense, you know, and then we have the, you know, the mother and baby homes and that issue kind of coming up again. And, you know, we have quite a different sort of landscape, maybe. I mean, I'm trying to remember back to 2008, but I don't think we were talking so much in the same contexts. And so maybe it kind of pushes the idea a little bit further, and that, you know, he's right that the sort of the political and public appetite for more religiously owned, if not religiously run institutions, meant kind of pushed him over the edge to actually say something more. But again, it's a little speculation.
Sorry, Caroline, I have to say that Legal Coffee Drinker has done a brilliant, I mean, I don't want to blow or, you know, the
amazing job.
Did a very good job on demonstrating that, you know, the sisters will have control. I mean, and it's very subtle, and it's kind of holds and mirrors, but it gives them control, and that's what they want. And you know, anybody interested in reproductive rights, I suppose, should be absolutely astonished at what's going on.
You know,
I agree. I don't want to be, but it doesn't really. It will never affect me, and, you know, in terms of my own body. But, you know, why would any woman really go for this? I think that this was a good idea. I mean, even a Catholic woman. Sorry,
it's you know,
no, I don't want to. I mean, it was more of a kind of question to the women.
I don't know. I think in regards to Rona Mani, just, I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like she's just exasperated. And if the conditions in Holles Street are what everyone says they are, I've never been there, but if they are as bad as they are, okay, you can understand it. But the point was made today that she's not going to be the master when this hospital is built. So, you know, it'll be the next master who picks up the pieces. Who will have to deal with whatever the legal arrangements are. But why would a woman go for John? I have no clue.
No, I also just on that, I would say that the worst decisions in Ireland have been made with while we're rushed. You know, everything has to be rushed. You know, you got to sign a bank deal tonight. This has got to go through today. And we always live to regret it. And suddenly now this 18th century, and as somebody wrote, you know, all the chiselers made it last year. You know, nobody's saying it's perfect. What an imperfect solution. Really, like as it stands.
Well, I think it's fascinating. Like that petition has got over 95,000 signatures now. You know, it'll hit 100,000 for sure.
That's Uplift.
Uplift,
yeah. Their petition.
Yeah, what are they? They're is that like a
petition website?
Yeah,
it's an Irish social petition website.
Oh,
I was only talking to someone about this actually recently. I was looking up. There's a wake of people. There's a couple of trade unionists, and it's just kind of hodgepodge of people really who are behind it. But yeah.
Well, it's a phenomenal.
It's community organisation at its finest.
Yeah. Mike, the reason Mike is yawning and is very tired is because he's completing his master's and in Telly production.
Completing a master's in shite hawking and speculation and procrastination. And the reason I it's not just yawning, but off screen, I'm also liaising with Gavin and other members of the team to make sure that everything's in line in case we need to screen share content from the site over the course of the weekend. But yes, carry on.
You're coming to the end of the master's now. I mean, isn't it? It's like
the end of the semester. I've got 2 weeks maybe left at the end of the semester, then a month off, but then final project isn't going to be so time intensive as the end of the semester is. So bear with me.
So what are the young, Mike, what are the young people saying about
well, John,
national maternity loss? What are the kids saying on the street?
Well, John, let me just refer to my other token youth people in the room here. Yeah, generally the consensus regards the.
What do you think?
What do I think? I think it's been a shambles the way that it's been handled. Just the fact that we're handing over a huge taxpayer-funded asset to an organisation that has done nothing to address its role in several abuse scandals over the course of the state's history, has refused to pay its redress for said scandals. I'm going to take off my glasses there because the glare is getting caught. Like Peter Boylan, as mentioned earlier, it's a very hard thing to do in that parish, no pun intended. It's a very hard thing to do, to stand up to institutions in a sector that is governed by institutions. With that being said, the pressure has been put up by Uplift and the pressure has been put up by people and has really kind of put Simon Harris on the back heel. I'd like to see more of that happening in the next few days, but it seems to be that there's, with Boylan's resignation, there seems to be a little bit of a counter-insurgency against public opinion in how this is being handled. I don't like it one bit.
I think like a few things. I think Simon Harris actually sort of had a human response. And I think Brendan Howell,
which is grand because he's a vampire. I mean, yeah. But
no, but less Vulcan than usual response, shall I say?
I thought he was always more of a vampire than a Vulcan.
No. What I mean is that he seemed as surprised as actually Howland did. Brendan Howland seemed over the weekend genuinely indignant. I don't think people realised the structure of the hospital, the deal that was being done. They hadn't really thought about it, I think. On that, I would say that I think I also felt that putting Rona Mahoney ahead to talk legal, the niceties, the legal, I don't know it, people like a legal coffee drinker would know, but also why is Nicholas Kearns going through the minutiae of this kind of detail, and why isn't she deferring to him on those matters? Instead she's in her throat talking about structures of companies acts and sorry, Neil. Sorry, Mike.
I was about to say, I'd like to know where Labour's indignance on the handling of these affairs has been all the time, considering how long that this whole National Maternity Hospital has been in the works. The other thing that you mentioned there, again, is this does have all the hallmarks of a rush job. And every single time that a major national decision has been left down to a rush job, it's been down to, I think, again, that ingrained deference to authority, and that ingrained that post-colonial mindset that continues to sustain itself in the halls of conservative opinion in Ireland, and more specifically the Fine Gael party.
Well, I would argue that it broke last year, in fact, by the Sunday Times.
In regards to the governance, or in regards to the governance structure, so there was like this battle. So I don't think it was actually agreed at that point.
No, but that was what was on the table, and then it was agreed upon, and then it suddenly just because it was being rubber stamped, and also was the children's hospital thing. Was that then was that suddenly put forward to? I'm
not too sure in regard.
The cabinet we're bringing it to cabinet to agree the children's hospital. Is this a deliberate tactic to move the story away from?
Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah.
I'm sure they wouldn't do that. You're joking me. They haven't done it before.
I mean, if their mission is to confuse, they certainly.
They were confused though. No, they were confused. As in, it's got this. No, this. But no one could actually produce a document to show what it could or couldn't do, and even the document that they did show.
Well, because somebody explained to me that leave a coffee drinker over an instant coffee saw holes in this that Nicholas Kearns has not addressed or didn't seem to be is not able to address or something. I mean, and if he was part of the negotiating team, perhaps he better go back to that table, and maybe they all.
But even today on the radio, one of the shareholders of the hospital didn't seem to understand it either. The Green Party councillor.
Yeah, and she went to university.
Ooh.
No, but and
John, all of those flavors and YouTube to be salty.
But perhaps she was just confused, and she genuinely didn't seem to understand that the trust was owned by the Sisters of Charity, which was.
Oh, I know. It was amazing. Brendan Helen had to point it out, and you don't want to be mean to this cancer, this Green Party cancer.
Not at all. But it could just be more indicative, though, of what was the communication between the shareholders and the people who were, on the board within their agreements. Like, what was the information that they were getting? They didn't vote on anything, remember? The shareholders or the governors, because there was no document to.
Yeah, but what were they being told? Obviously,
exactly.
Green Party cancer was never told about the ownership structure of St. Vincent's Healthcare Group.
It would appear not, or.
Right, but I think I'm the same. I don't think I understood that too. In fact, I have to plead ignorance on that, or maybe I did, or did you know that? That was the entirely Sisters of Charity, or absolute sort of.
I think it was from the Sunday Times. I think that's the first that's where it came on. I came on my radar would have been last year when Justine McCarthy wrote about this, disagreement over governance, clinical governance. But that's when I learned about, the trust is owned fully outright by the Sisters of Charity, so it would effectively be owned by the Sisters of Charity.
Yeah. Caroline?
Yeah.
I hate to ask you this question, but did you feel that this week that women were somewhat divided on this issue because of Rona Mani being such an icon of new women in Irish medicine, and a bit like there's a bone effect whereby a person has done such a great amount of work in the liberal field that they get a pass when they seem to be going off that path.
Well, I think, and it's a little hard to say, whether all of women in Ireland are divided over the issue. Don't know is the real truth. But my inclination is to think that she's expressing these sentiments out of frustration and a desire to get the hospital up and running, and that becomes then the overriding issue. But then at the same time, there is certainly just kind of reading the papers, there was this, and listening to kind of politicians on the news and things, that there seems to be a sense that, well, if this isn't accepted, if it isn't accepted that the Sisters of Charity, then we get nothing, and the whole process is frustrated, and the whole project falls. So it's either like it or lump it. Really it seems to be sort of the message, and I think that's maybe the more interesting thing in terms of where we stand, because I think I agree with Olga. I think it's very hard to envisage why this would be acceptable for any sort of woman of childbearing age. I know a number of my friends as well who either are pregnant or thinking about it, and for some of them who are in different countries, they talking with them, they have said, well, actually we're glad we're in Germany or wherever, because they were not dealing with that as an issue, and it's not a concern. So I think it's a very complicated. It brings up a lot of complicated feelings, I think, and one of them is frustration at not getting a maternity hospital that is there and ready to go, on the one hand, and then being told, well, I don't want it to be, religiously led, or run in any way, and that it needs to be sort of state-based, much like many other conversations that we've been having in terms of education. It's not like this is obviously being held kind of in stark relief because it's so immediate, but for a long while now there's been a conversation about sort of religious institutions' roles in other parts of state life, and I think it becomes part and parcel of that.
Yeah, well, I think just again, giving the councillor a free pass and stuff about the nuns and the ownership. I think people are surprised about that, and that the nuns are like, I don't know, playing property, like David said on Marion Finucane on Sunday, playing property developers, landlords, and playing the markets, and maybe a certain this generation, they weren't shocked by Tume, but they're shocked by nuns playing the making money and profiting on land, and
what do they do with the money?
Making more money than they are on land.
How do nuns spend money like?
Huh?
They don't. Is it on fees?
How do nuns spend money like? They obviously don't go shopping for clothes.
Dry cleaning.
They're in. Excuse me, Johnny.
I think some of it is for.
They
often say, I think it's to care for the remaining nuns.
Yeah, but
I think
it's to fund their habits.
How many of them is there, Olga?
I think I knew that, and I don't know it now. I think
it's less than only a couple of hundred or something.
Yeah, if
then you
not
said
less,
something like 67 million between them all. They needed that. It's like it's this is a new, you know, it's St. Vincent's today, just down the road from RT. Took RT a long while to figure that one out, didn't it? If they looked out the window, they might have been able to figure out what was happening. Like, and I read somewhere that at St. Vincent's and the maternity hospital are actually going to meet by a corridor. So that'll be interesting in relation to the ethos.
Yeah, well,
you can't say Jesus Christ, Holy Mary now when you're over here, so just get it all out of your system. Over in Vincent's. It's ludicrous. I'd like to add to the point that
please, Johnny, we can't see it.
Down the country.
Yeah,
you're missing nothing.
Yeah, he seems to be having some connection issues.
Okay,
so
sorry,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
The scandal down the country was Port Youngcliffe this week in relation to the serious matter of children dying and not being able to get the records and being just stonewalled. So, you know, that was a good report there on prime time is where I seen it. And it's like these hospitals that have the influence of the nuns, the Catholic Church. It's lunatic. It's just crazy. It's ludicrous, and it's been going on since the Murphy and Ryan report. Nothing has happened. It's just there been a report, recommendations, and until they said, "Wow, Jesus Christ, 300 million in St. Vincent's given up, and the nuns have a call on it." How the fuck do they? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Hey, lads, Tume was only after happening. There's loads of other scandals there. The mainstream media aren't going to tell us, but it's going to be filtered out. And Neil said something there earlier on in relation to there's more to this story, or maybe there's a bigger story as well that we're being sidetracked on, because it just keeps on going on and on and on. It's a very simple story from where it started last week to where we are now. One guy had to resign. He was asked to resign, and then he resigned.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church is unbelievable. It's no coincidence that they're getting revved up for the Pope coming back. They had to stop masses there in Limerick. You know, the Catholic Church is on its knees, so it's really fighting back. And it has to come down to the state. The separation has to happen now.
It does.
I'd say in the next year. In the next few months,
Johnny,
it's just ready to kick off, lads, I think.
I think this is obviously, and I'm going to say this to the whole panel as well, obviously, again, we're not here to rag on people's personal choices, but you know, again, the administrative bodies behind private bullies should remain in private life. And to me, it looks like that the organization behind this is losing massive amounts of steam, and it just seems to be that all of this scrapping over land and scrapping over whatever little piece of fealty that they can retain over the Irish people is simply a rage against the dying of the light.
But the book I mentioned last week, remember the militant Catholicism book? That's the book. A Challenge to Democracy, Militant Catholicism in Modern Ireland. And I misled people last week. It doesn't mention Opus Dei in it, but it mentions them all, and it goes up to the sort of start of Opus Dei, really.
But John, where can we get this book?
But well, I'm sure in all good bookshops, but this I love this. I don't know if you can read that. Can you?
Yes, I can.
This is Tolerance. Too much of a good thing?
Question mark.
One of the many
byline of the site. Too much of a good thing.
One of the many leaflets from the Catholic Truth Society. But the other book, the other non-fiction book I've been banging on about for the last few weeks is the Justin Keating one, and I really kind of read it now a couple of times, and the brilliant cover. That's him young, and that's him a little older. He's the
nice concept.
He's the son of the painter Sean Keating, Galway guy, and but brilliant book. And he mentions the deal, the indemnity deal, and he says the church is still in denial in Ireland. In the dying days of the Fianna Fáil government, a shockingly exploitative deal was done between the Minister for Education, Mike Woods, and the religious authorities in what is to me a terrible piece of
yes.
That's Tony's dog.
That's Jinx. There's someone at the door, lads. Relax.
It capped the church's financial. Sorry, I'm
they were looking for the Easter Jews.
It capped the church. I beg your pardon?
Can you see me?
We cannot see you, Johnny.
We can hear James, the dog.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Shall I read on?
No, yeah, John, I'd like to hear. Yeah.
Yes, read on, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
It capped the church's financial.
Relax.
For fuck's sake.
Dog says
Jinx.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, it capped.
Read on, John. Read
Sorry.
on. For fuck's sake. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. We mean to do it.
That's an Opus Dei dog.
That is an Opus Dei dog. He's trying to. He's silencing us. He is.
Okay. Yeah.
He's working to silence us.
It capped the church's financial responsibility at an appallingly low level to be paid in part by the transfer of overvalued church property to the state. The amount was 128 million in cash, property and counselling services, with the cost of compensation for the damage done by, we know that's, it's topped 1 billion, over 1 billion now. He writes, I know of an instance where a prominent Irish barrister was sent to Canada to study how the Catholic Church there had concealed its assets so that it could evade the financial consequences of its depredation, compensation to the victims. Who is paying the vast majority of the church's compensation liabilities? You'd only need 3 guesses, you and I. So
Wow. So
yeah.
they sent a barrister to Canada to find out how to do it.
That's some low shit.
Huh?
That's horrendous. That's unimaginable.
Well, you see, this is I think probably the issue that it needs to be looked at. It's not the kind of una ban me whatever's
Yeah.
It's not the nuns and priests really. It's there's a power structure that's deeply embedded. I mean, you saw the reaction to the Citizens Assembly abortion vote, and with some of the poll cards and the response on the news. Olga, you mentioned it to me.
Yeah. There was a sense of, oh, this is shock. We never expected this.
But also that this will never.
Yes.
This is
apparently it's a divisive abortion referendum, despite it being the will of the people. My question, also, I'm going to make a quick point regards. You were talking about the abuse redress package. You're talking about land and money being handed off, and I can't help but notice that counselling services were being part of the abuse redress packages. Why in the blue fuck, after being subjected to horrifying treatment by these organisations and the people working underneath them, would you then take counselling service from the same superstructure that inflicted this upon you?
Well, we're in an abusive relationship as a country, so many people in abusive relationships continue to stick with their abusive partners, and that's what we do.
Because it'll get better sometime, and it never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's a really good point. No. Sorry.
Not to worry. Have we lost Gavin? Have we?
We have lost Gavin. I was on my phone there liaising with him regarding any multimedia material that needed to be shared throughout the course of the show. The debate seems to have carried along quite nicely, so let's return.
Just to move on, but kind of in the same field as though Grace, the case, the girl they've called Grace, who was returned to known abusive foster parents, was awarded 6.3 million euros.
Yeah,
and this is ahead of a commission of inquiry, which will. When's that starting? Sorry,
it's underway actually. Yeah, I think the terms of reference and all that was sorted out in March, so I think it's underway. But and if you remember, it was just focusing on Grace, and then there's the 42 or 47 other children who have been brought into it. And Fergus Finlay was saying this evening that there's 2 other people who would have been subjected to equal amount of abuse as Grace. So there's bound to be more to come. But I think
it's a huge amount, and it's also a real surprise. The HSC have apologised. It's a kind of, I think the evidence.
It's probably indicative of, what they know, and
Now, the judge, Peter Kelly, said today that the family had an extraordinary, the foster family had an extraordinary hold over the three health board officials who dealt with the case.
Mm-hmm.
What was that hold?
Mm. So I guess so she was in the home. So she was in the home, and allegations had been made by another mother whose child stayed with this family, and this mother was living in the UK. Anyway, this was the allegation was of a sexual nature, and so the health board decided no more children should stay there, but Grace remained there. So there was a decision to remove her, and then there was a reversal of this decision. And between those two decisions, a letter was sent by the foster father to Michael Noonan, who was then the Minister for Health. In addition, a letter was sent from a principal of a school where a grandson of the foster parents went, and also called for Grace to remain with his family. So we don't know what happened. Michael Noonan denies any wrongdoing and says he had no part to play in it. I think he basically said that he passed the letter on to the Southern Health Board. But we know that, what was it? I think there was a letter from the Department of Health to one of the people on the Southern Health Board saying that representations were made. So, and those representations was this letter that was sent to Michael Noonan. But interestingly, last week on Sunday, so if you remember Gary O'Halloran, he's a barrister, he lives in Cork, and he had a lot to do with getting the Ferns report up and running. He worked with Veronica Guerin on the abuse, on getting stories out in regards to children there. Anyway, he had an interest in this because of he was a former Fine Gael councillor. He was the chairman of the Southern Health Board at the time, well before that stuff happened with Grace. But sorry, I'm just going on now. But he took an interest in the case because he had attempted to meet with Noonan with a victim of abuse of a priest who had died, and this was in 1997 at an Ordesh, and he claims that it was arranged, and Noonan just ignored him and left without, they were literally walking towards him, and he left. So when
apparently he legged it into a waiting car.
That's exactly. He legged it into a car. That's what Gary says. And basically, Gary heard this stuff about Grace in the letter on radio, and thought, okay, this isn't an isolated incident, and so that's why he's taken an interest in it, and has subsequently gathered a lot of information about it. But he complained to the guards last February, if you remember, and he made a complaint to Noreen O'Sullivan, and just last Wednesday they took a statement from him.
Right.
So, well, he denies any wrongdoing. Just to underline that.
It's incredible, and it's a story, and I mean, when the full story emerges, it's going to be. I think it's very, very shocking, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just like, why did they decide not to? Or sorry, why did they reverse the decision to take her out?
Yeah, and if it was for some kind of anyway, let's not even go there. Let's not even,
Let's not. That's the worst thing that we could possibly get into this hour of the night.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Neil, I want to go back to about us being with abusive partners. You're saying.
Us with abusive partners, John.
We got a message here that happens. Somebody's writing that happens because abusive partners are highly manipulative people. We have to acknowledge we're dealing with a very manipulative power structure, maybe with people in it who are good, but the power structure is based on high level manipulation. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I use it as a metaphor.
Who said that? Joe Duffy.
Johnny?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
I'm here on audio. Can you see me now?
Yes, we have two audio guests this evening, and the panel is multimedia, truly.
I got my haircut especially.
Sorry, Neil, I cut you there.
Yeah, I mean, again, in the realm of speculation, we either have a leadership in this country that's incredibly clever, getting backhanders all over the place, or they're incredibly dumb. And depending on what day you open the papers is where you get your answer. I mean, if you look at the big initiatives, in the last 2 years between Irish Water, Air Code, this, you know, the scandals in the church and how they're being handled. You know, we could just be, we're being led by idiots who have nothing to gain, or maybe, you know, maybe it's the opposite. It comes back to what I always harp on about, like, there's no accountability anywhere in this country when it comes to matters at the top, and we're very quick to make scapegoats of people, positions of power. People in high up in the echelons will make scapegoats of people to do away with issues. And, you know, until that happens, we'll never, you know, we'll be talking about this till the end of time, or we'll be talking about issues in nations till the end of time. You know, next week we'll be talking about something else, and this won't have been addressed, and the hospital will open and the sisters will still own it. And then we'll encounter the first issue when abortion is passed and the first abortion has been carried out in the hospital or wherever it's been carried out that the nuns run. You know, we'll have a new debate on the table then, and we'll be saying about what doctors and what politicians said now. You know, it's just it's a never-ending cycle.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel that the ground has shifted a little, and also if we can, hard to, but if we can remove the emotion and get down to the sort of nitty-gritty about power structure and ownership, and I think people do understand that. You know, after the crash and everything, we just understand what a bit more. If you read the agreement, it's really quite easy to follow in terms of what's going on. I mean, it's very obvious. It's a power play, but you know, why? And why does Kieran Mulvey, like, he deals with, you know, the tough union guys and bus, you know, whatever, mega corp, and he's got to do,
guards.
And the guards, and why does he have to come in with between the nuns and Rona, and, you know, anyway, just to say that I'm very sorry about all the technical problems and the fact that we can't see Caroline and we can't see Johnny, and we lost Gavin.
It's Murph. And
I hope we got through tonight. We're going to have a whistleblower special on this Monday, later than scheduled. We'll have more details tomorrow and on Monday, but we have to have whistleblowers, and we just want to thank them. It's a show just to show our appreciation. So if you want to get involved in that, broadsheet.ie. I would like to very much thank Mike McGrath-Bryan, Caroline McAvoy, Johnny Keenan and Jinx Keenan, Neil Curran, Olga Cronin from Broadsheet, and myself, John Pre-POST-erous from Broadsheet also. Thank you very much, and we'll hopefully see you on Monday, if not next Thursday, and on the site tomorrow. Thank you.